got Bama and Ole Miss, and that's a great game. Believe me, looks good. I think even Kentucky, Florida, really, really good game this week. But for my money, I think the game that probably is the one that could have the biggest impact historically since the college football playoff began is Cincinnati traveling to Notre Dame. Because for a group of 5 school to make it, no one has ever gotten in, and they've gotten close and they get bounced. And you had Boise in the BCS, and they could never get in the championship game, but they were always playing in the BCS bowl games, knocked off Oklahoma. They've played good, and they had that cachet that, they were kind of considered the Gonzaga or the Butler of college football, with being able to make runs against the big boys. And then eventually they lost their coach, Chris Peterson, and those things began to change. But Luke Fickell being at Cincinnati, they checked the boxes of, number one, coming in, they were ranked top 10. The perception was that they were a really good football program. Why? Because they've been good for 2 previous years, and they took Georgia down to the wire. Probably should have won the game, didn't, but had a good shot at beating a team that people perceived to be really, really talented and a very, very good football team. So there was all that in there. And so he had that coming into the season. He had the momentum. He's got to go undefeated. He's done that, but he's got to go undefeated this year. You need chaos to happen at some of the Power Fives. Teams that we thought in July were shoo-ins to get into the college football playoff. Oklahoma, they're undefeated, but no one would say that they're out here dominating and rolling dudes. They've got some work to do, and they've got some things that they need to straighten up. Their quarterback situation with Spencer Rattler isn't great. Their offense isn't blowing people out like they were. Defense is playing better. But no one looks at this like this Oklahoma team that they had with Kyler and Baker and all those guys, even Jalen Hurts. Then you have Ohio State, already has a loss to Oregon. They've looked human this year. They don't look dominant. Penn State looks good. So there still could be some other teams in the Big Ten that potentially make a run. You've got Iowa up there. But then you also have the ACC, which the 2 undefeateds are Boston College and Wake. Boston College is playing Clemson, who's 2-2. So I don't think there's an expectation that you're going to get a team in from the ACC. So maybe get 2 SEC teams. Oregon looks like they could potentially be getting in unless they have a couple of really bad losses. But that opens it up for Cincinnati. Undefeated, perception of being good entering the season, chaos. And then the last part is something that's really tough. You have to have your schedule work out for you. And they schedule these games so far in advance, you never know who's going to truly be good. You think you do, but if Cincinnati had Clemson on their schedule this year, it wouldn't look near as good as having Notre Dame. And so they beat Indiana. Indiana kind of stepped back a little bit, come back down to earth. It wasn't the top 25 team, or it won't be that everybody thought it was last year with Michael Penix Jr. and how well they were playing. But they have it lined up for them. They're going to Notre Dame, to take on a team that smoked Wisconsin on the scoreboard, a lot closer than that. Wisconsin was leading, in the second half. They score, get a field goal, get house called on the return, and then all of a sudden the wheels kind of fall off a little bit. Graham Mertz, their offense, it's a mess right now. Defensively, they're playing well. They still have, a lot of things that they've got to take care of to get that thing right and get that thing fixed. But Notre Dame is still a top 10 team. Cincinnati is favored in this game. People talking about the underdog pulling an upset. Well, Notre Dame is the underdog. Now, maybe that continues to change. The line's been coming down, over the course of the last couple of days. But Notre Dame was a couple point favorite as of a few days ago. So you've got that. You have the team. You have the cachet. Now, looking at Notre Dame early on in the season, I thought Cincinnati would beat them. From how they played to open the season against Florida State and Toledo, not looking great. Second 2 games playing much better, Purdue and Wisconsin. The big reason why is their defense. Marcus Freeman, new D coordinator, takes a little bit of time to have your guys settle in, start playing well, start trying to play defense the way that you need them to. And so they've really stepped up. Quarterback question, is Jack Cohn going to be all right? Drew Pine, I don't know if it really matters. They don't seem all that concerned about it because I don't think there's this massive difference in the play level of either of those guys based upon what I saw last week against Wisconsin. But they're playing better. It's going to be tough for Cincinnati to get the win. Cincinnati's one weakness in my mind is their offensive line. Notre Dame, they're going to get after it. They're going to bring guys, 3, 4, 5 guys. They're going to mix it up in a multitude of ways, bring 6 sometimes, but a lot of times they'll rush 4 and 5 and still have, 6, 7 guys in coverage. It's just who are those guys coming and identifying them. And Cincinnati's offensive line, a little bit weaker. They lost Hudson to the draft, their left tackle, and so they haven't been quite as good there. They've got Desmond Ritter. He's going to have to play the game of his life. Be locked in, identifying the blitzers, knowing who's coming, setting protections, and then being able to make sure he gets the ball out. And then the running back Ford, really, really talented player. Alabama transfer, and people bemoan the fact you bring that up. I think it's important. Why? Because Nick Saban doesn't recruit bad players. He recruits highly talented guys, and he's at Cincinnati. Probably wouldn't have been able to get a player like that unless they were a transfer. And he's played really, really well. Cincinnati's defense, very experienced, good D-line. I think they'll be able to get after him and impact Notre Dame. It's going to be a really close game. I think Desmond Ritter ultimately pulls it out because I think he's the quarterback that makes a difference. But since he's got some speed on the perimeter, if they can establish their running game, which will be tough, I think they'll be able to get the win, because if you can put the ball in Desmond Ritter's hands late, he's really good. He is really good. He's got a good arm. In this game, he may have to use his legs a little bit more. But it's going to be a lot tougher than I thought, because Notre Dame's playing really, really good football at this point. And it's be a bump for Notre Dame, too. They're beating a Cincinnati team that people perceive to be really good. But this, to me, Cincinnati gets the win, is the first time we've seen a situation where a college group, since the college football playoff, where there will be a group of 5 school that will have an opportunity to make it. And it's because of all the things that I just mentioned, because so very rarely do those things line up.